Good morning to everybody and welcome to DEDRA. She is the Geriatric Care Manager. Amazing. And today we're gonna learn about how we as SRES and working with our clients can rely on DEDRA and her services to help our clients. I'm gonna have you go ahead.
Okay, well, first of all, just thank you very much, Julie, and also Skip made the introduction to have me present to you guys. I have a unique position in that I'm a geriatric care manager, and I work in a law office that does estate planning, trust administration, and probate. So having the geriatric component for the elder law care part of it is rather unique and very much a benefit to our clients. But I also am able to help anybody within California. Outside of California, not. Laws different, things different. But within California, I get calls from all over the state. People are Googling us, people find us all over. So what is a geriatric care manager? It is one of those things that, to be honest, you just assign yourself that designation because it's not overseen by any bigger organizations. Why I'm a geriatric care manager and have assigned myself that name, shall we say, title, is that my history began back when I graduated from college, and I was an occupational therapist, and I work in psychiatric over at Good Samaritan Hospital. For those who are local, you know about that one. And I loved helping people. And as an occupational therapist, you look at all aspects of the person. You're not like a physical therapist looking just at the body, the muscles and the joints, but you're looking at what do they do? How do you get someone to brush their hair? What do they need to functionally be able to do? What is their family support? Lots of different things like that. So when I landed eventually, after my kids went off to college, I landed in an adult day program for Alzheimer's. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm in an Alzheimer's program. I've been just spending the last 20 years teaching my kids what to do, how to do. And now I've got to throw all that away and look at making this the best day possible for someone who doesn't remember what they had for breakfast. And I found that to be the most rewarding. The adult day program I worked with is all about supporting the family. It's about making things possible so that those with dementia can stay at home longer and not be institutionalized. I absolutely love being in the program. And then eventually I went into being what I refer to as in the front office, where I was developing programs for the families so that things were easier for them, being support groups, as well as bringing in podiatrists into the program for the toes, hair cutting, anything to make it easier. But then a little over 10 years ago, I landed here at the law office. And it's kind of gone for full circle where I get to help people in a wider scope. I'm helping both seniors as well as their adult children who are often clueless of what's going on or what next step to make. So normally if you were to Google and look for a geriatric care manager in your area, more than likely you're going to find one that is a case manager. This is someone who might have 5 or 6 people that they are following. They take them to doctor's appointments. They make sure the medications are being ordered, that everything's in line. If there's caregivers coming, that they're doing their tasks. I think a way to think of it is the person, the geriatric care manager is the daughter that can't be there. So they do all the functions of what a daughter would do in watching over the loved one, as well as having more of a perhaps a medical background, therapy background, some sort of background that kind of works for them.
So what's the difference between a case manager and a patient advocate then?
Because a patient, well, again, this has to do with titles. What does the person actually do is the question. Because a patient advocate is advocating for the person, making sure that they are getting what is due to them. So I'm kind of like a combination, because I will have people, and I'll get into it more later, but it's not just getting the call from the adult child mom's in the skilled nursing. She's going to be, they said she has to be discharged in 2 days, 48 hours. And they expect me to bring her home. And I'm working full time and I've got kids at home and I can't do all this. Well, and so the advocacy part of my position is to say, well, let's talk about this. What does your mom need help with? Well, she's in a wheelchair. I can't bring her into my house. And they keep going off. I said, you know what? Your mom can stay at the skilled nursing facility for now. She can stay there for long term. She can stay there as long as you want her to stay. No. They said she has to be discharged. And as an advocate, I'm like, no, here's the truth. Your mom can stay there. Legally, they cannot discharge her. The only question we're going to talk about is how to pay for it. And they just kind of melt going, oh, she can't stay there. So, advocacy is knowing what your rights are, whether you're in the hospital, whether you're in skilled nursing, assisted living, board and care homes, just knowing what's going on. So Skip, to your question, I think all positions, you got to find the right person for what you're looking for. And so people call me and I refer to geriatric care managers all the time because I'm not that case manager. I don't go out to people's houses on a regular basis and keep track of them, and just have 5 or 6 in my bubble. I'm dealing with hundreds of people. Every case, every day brings new people. So, know what you're looking for. What is it you're really wanting? And I'm actually more of a referral person. I'm making that referrals. What do you need? Okay, I can't help you, but here's a name and number of someone who can. I hope they can. And so that's where I kind of come into play with a lot of families and a lot of just professionals out there. They don't know who to turn to. I just had a call yesterday from a director of a skilled nursing facility. And he's like, the resident's not paying. Their share of costs are on Medi-Cal. And he's like, I don't know how to get that to work. And so I called somebody else who I knew. Between the two of us, got the information, went back to the executive director and said, hey, this is what we came up with. And he's like apologizing for calling me. I'm like, no, this is what I do. Find out how I can help, whether it be whoever it is. And like, again, wherever they may be within California, but then out of state is where people call when they're going to make a move into California. So I can certainly help with that. Where you guys so I'm also a certified senior advisor.
Yay.
Yay. And
Yay.
that was one of the best programs I went through because I was very strong in dementia. I was very strong in legal documents, but man, everything else at that time when I first took the test was just an eye-opening experience. And I still refer to the book and different things because it's such a well-rounded designation to have. And so I really appreciate that, having that designation, because I feel like I needed something for the senior world, for the senior people, whether it be the certified senior advisor, or if I was going to get a gerontology degree or certificate, there's just different things that I would have considered, but I really like this one the best. It was just so well rounded and it just pointed right to what I needed to do. So that's who I am, and that's who I work for. So when would somebody call me? You guys are out in the field, you're talking to, lots of people out there who are interested in selling their house. In fact, I had a client come, him and his wife, and they came and they said, we're thinking of downsizing. We've lived in our house for, 30 plus, 40 plus years, and we're just thinking about it. And so I went through this whole discussion. We had a consultation, what it would look like, what would you need to do, what are some steps? And yet they weren't ready. Definitely were not ready. Fast forward a year, they come back. We're thinking even more that we're leaving. And I said, well, why? What happened? He said, a few weeks ago, left to the grocery store, came back, and our house had been burglarized. And he said, the house is located next to a park. He says, love the park when the kids were young. It was what attracted us to it. And he says, now it's an area of bad people coming in, potentially. So, they just didn't feel as comfortable there. And again, I gave them, okay, step 1, step 2, steps 3, let's let's move this in progress. But sometimes you're probably seeing people who are just frail, and living at home is not the ideal situation. It may be the safety issues. It may be they're too far from family. It might be that they are needing care and they can't afford it. Because if someone, I'm sure you always hear, oh, I'm going to stay home until I die. And that's great as long as you don't have any health issues and you can afford care at home. If you do not have any long-term care insurance policy, you're going to be right now looking at about $38,000 a month to pay for a caregiver in your house. And that's just usually not feasible for most people, unless you have a long-term care policies, and those are starting to fade as the population's getting older. And, people say, I've got a couple $100,000 in the bank and I've got this $2 million house. What am I going to do? I'm stuck. And so this is where, again, turning to someone like me, we're going to work out all the numbers. I understand. I have enough understanding to be dangerous, perhaps, of, capital gains, the basis, what the fair market value is, taxes, tax consequence. And so many people I talk to, well, I can't sell. And I said, why not? Oh, because I'm going to pay so much in taxes. I'm like, well, yes, you might be paying a lot of taxes if you sell your house. I said, but let's go back and let's just talk about your dream. What is your dream? And they talk about, I don't want to have to worry about maintenance. I don't want to worry about every time my kids come over, I've got this long list of things for them to do. I just want to enjoy the grandkids. I want to enjoy my own kids. I want to have fun with my friends. I want to just kind of just take a break and just be done. We're talking about 80-year-olds here that are just looking for the good life, shall we say, but feel rather stuck because they feel the pains when they wake up in the morning. They get out of bed, they creak, not literally, I hope not. But it's just everything can be a struggle as we get older, and things that we can deal with, we should be dealt with. So like, if you don't want to worry about the cooking, the cleaning, the yard work, paying all your bills, having someone that can just knock on their door next door and say, hey, let's go out for a cup of coffee and enjoy the company. That's what we're talking about, senior communities. And the person may say, well, I can't afford it. I heard they cost, $5,000 a month. And my income's only $2,000. Yeah, but you're living in a $2 million home that's paid off. Well, I can't sell it. And again, we got a little bit of circle there, but I come back around and said, okay, let's go through the numbers. What would it look like? And essentially kind of get them, go through the math, very basic math, because I said, I want to see what you're going to have in your pocket when you walk away. After you paid commissions, after you pay the taxes, after you pay for the moving people, after you've paid for people to help you and support you through everything that's going to take you to move, because the more support you have, the easier it is for you. And yes, that does cost. You're paying people to help you, and that's okay, because you might be walking away, with 1.3 million in your back pocket. 1.3 million for an 85-year-old is going to take you through your life with whatever wish you have, whatever desires you have. And then they always say, well, yes, but I want to leave some for my kids. And you will still have some to leave for your kids, And of course, they usually follow that up with, of course, my kids say that, no, mom, you spend the money on yourself. Nothing you're going to do is going to change our life. Huge impact. I hear all these things, and I'm sure you do too. And so sometimes maybe having an outside person besides the realtor, because I have no financial skin in the game. I'm just giving information. I have nothing to gain by talking and encouraging people to what, showing them all the options and the consequences to all the options. This is what I do. I had one person come in, it was during the holidays, and she comes in with a wheelchair. She's being pushed by her niece and nephew, who were in their 60s. And we're just talking, and she says, yeah, I was looking for an attorney and they referred me to it was a financial advisor, a Schwab financial advisor in the same building. It's like, we don't know what to do with you. It's like, go to Schwab, to this person. So they referred to this person. This person says, no, you need to talk to DEDRA. So she says, this is what I'm trying to figure out in my life. She said, I fell, I broke my femur. I've been in skilled nursing for my 100 Medicare days, rehabbing, staring at the roof. I called my nephew and niece. I have no children, never been married. And they had to come out from Chicago. I live by myself in my condo. It's all paid off. And I don't know where to go from here. And she said, I've got great neighbors, but until now, I was very independent, and now I'm not. What can I do? And so talking with her a bit, came up with a plan, and the plan involves selling her condo. I mean, this is a huge move for an older person. And she said, yep, that's what I want to do. And I need a trust. And she had no estate documents whatsoever. She needed the estate planning documents. She was going to make a move. She was going to go and do senior living. There were a lot of moving parts with this woman. I'm like, whoa, slow down. She says, no, DEDRA, again, I've been staring at a roof for 3 months. And I actually take that back. It was 5 months. 5 months, because 2 months she private paid at the skilled nursing facility at $18,000 a month. That was part of the story, because she only had, before the accident, about 70,000 to her name, plus her condo. So this is where she just spent almost 40,000 on care, and she was stressing. What are we going to do? So again, we got our attorneys here involved, got some placement people involved, got a realtor involved, got all the pieces put together. And within 2 months, this woman had everything done. She was in her place. We had plan A, which is for her to just be independent in a senior community. We had her on Medi-Cal. We had about, I forget what it was, maybe $600,000 or $700,000 in her bank account to cover all her costs. She was set. She knew what to expect. She knew who to call. This is what I do, but also there's also a team, plus there's also referrals. It was just a great story. And again, I gained nothing from it. I was just kind of orchestrating it. I was compensated for doing a Medi-Cal application. But other than that, there was nothing more, it just didn't matter. So sometimes, again, going back to you all who are realtors, man, you want to make the sale. I get that. That's not a problem to me. But from the seller's perspective, or from the family who, the adult children, it's like, well, I'm not sure if we should trust you because you just want to make the sale. Well, why don't you talk to this other person? They're going to give you, they'll give you all the options, and just maybe there is something out there. Who knows? Then the other part of that is, if you're going to consider selling or moving or downsizing or whatever it is, what are you going to? My mom moved up here when she was 80 from LA. And, I had to go through all the different possibilities. Okay, Mom, do you want to buy another house? No, don't want to own anything. Do you want to be in a condo? And she's like, yes, maybe. We went through all these different things. And it ended up that she wanted ultimately to move into a senior community, because when she came up here, she didn't want to drive. So she wanted someplace that provide driving activities. She wanted a beautiful neighborhood to walk through, because she walked about 2 miles a day. Different things were important to her. And I know my mom, so I knew exactly where she was going to go months before we got to that point, because I had to bring her around gently so that she was making the decisions and not me. Because we need to keep we need to keep those who are making decisions, the seniors, in charge as much as possible. Independence is making the decisions. Independence isn't doing it by yourself. Independence is making the decisions on what the next step is. So making moves is a big part of what I'm involved with in conversations with people. And it's a long process. Again, it doesn't happen normally like that one person within 2 months. It could be years easily. I mean, you know how that goes. You have someone call and you think, yeah, this is it. And then, then it drops the ball. And then all of a sudden, 5 years later, they call you, out of the blue. But you know that they're always on their mind. So another aspect of what I do, since I work here in the estate planning attorney's office, is I have a very thorough understanding of documents. For example, I just had a gentleman, he had a 9:30 appointment. He came in planning on selling his mom's house because mom has moved into a memory care assisted living facility near him because she lives down in Hollister. Her home's down in Hollister, and it's about $12,000 a month for this memory care place. And he knew he'd ultimately have to pay, sell the house. And he called me and said, well, what can we do about capital gains? What can we do about this? What can we do about that? And it ended up that it wasn't that big of a tax consequence because A, it's Hollister, so B, it's a condo, and C, she's got a $250,000 exemption. So capital gain was really not a storyline. And so a couple of years ago when he was in the office, he'd given me a copy of his mom's trust and power of attorney and all the documents. And I said, so you plan on selling the house? He goes, yeah. I said, has anything changed? Because your trust here that you showed me of your mom's trust, that your mom is still trustee. She's still in control. Well, no. He says, I'm power of attorney. I can do it all. I'm like, no. Power of attorney document has to do with things outside of the trust. I said, her home is in her trust, deeded in her trust. It's the trust that dictates who manages, who has control. And right now it's your mom. He's like, no. And so I had to bring up the power of attorney. I had to go through a whole discussion with him. Documents, knowing what they do, knowing what they don't do, very important for people to understand this. And if I can explain it to them, it'll make your job easier. And to be just to look over who does have authority to do these big actions like selling a house. And anyway, so he just needs 2 doctor's letters of incapacity. Mom already lacks capacity. That won't be an issue. And then, of course, it also showed on the trust. I said, this trust says that when mom lacks capacity, it's you and your wife are co-trustees. Now, I knew his wife had already passed. I said, and so therefore, you're going to have to also put a death certificate to show that she's not a co-trustee. And I said, it does say here, you're allowed to serve as a sole trustee if you or your wife can't. And if both of you can't, then it moves on to this other person. Just talking this through with people is very important. Knowing what it is. It's also very important. And I think I'm thinking, from a realtor's perspective, you're more about the selling, the home and where a person's living and making that their safe place and everything. But if they're going to remain or they're going to move, whatever it is, having estate planning documents that are current is important. In fact, the gentleman who I was talking about with his wife who had passed away a few years ago, he hasn't done any review of his estate plan. He said, yeah, I'm thinking I need to have that looked at. I'm like, well, yeah. I said, so who's your power of attorney? I'm guessing it was your wife. If something, something happened to you, he's like, I don't even know who it is. He said, but I don't really need a trust. I don't need all that yet because I'm fine. I said, you're fine until you're not fine. I said, do you trust every driver out there on the road that you're not going to get in an accident, or you walk down the sidewalk that a car's not going to, anything can happen. We all know that. He was living in a little world of, unicorns and whatever, but he'll be fine. I'll keep my eye on him. So not only is it to have the comprehensive, estate plan with all the different parts, but knowing how they're used. So if, for example, I had a situation where it was a single elderly woman living by herself, had her estate documents done, not a problem. and had family over for holidays. That was just her normal routine. She cooked all the meals. And one day during the holidays, with everybody there was a medical event where the children kind of lost track of mom, who was sitting on the her recliner, kind of taking a break from all the day's events, and they could not wake her up. And they're like started to panic because she was unresponsive. They called 911. 911 comes, the ambulance, the paramedics, the fire truck, all the lights going. And they have, grandma laid out on the floor there, and the grandkids are there, the great grandkids. It was a mess of a scene. And they start doing CPR on her. And her children like, no, this is not what mom wanted. They'd had the discussion with mom. Mom did not want anything extra going on. Mom had all her documents. That was not an issue. These kids were scrambling around to find the document that says, no, do not do CPR on mom. She did not want that. And finally they found it. And so they give it to the paramedics, and the paramedics looked at it and they're like, continue CPR. And they're just saying, what? It was just a horrible scene. And off mom goes in the ambulance. The reality is, I'll tell you, she was already passed away when she was at her home. Paramedics had to do what they had to do, which was try to revive her. Even if they thought she was gone for a while, they're still going to try to revive her because they don't want to be sued for not trying. What did the family hand the paramedics? They handed them the healthcare power of attorney, healthcare directive. It's where her wishes are. It's what she wanted. But it was not what it was not, and what it should have been was the POLST. POLST being the acronym, POLST, Physician's Order of Life-Sustaining Treatment. It's a nationwide program. It's a document that can be used other places. But had she had that, had the kids understood the different documents, had they had this on the refrigerator where it belonged, they could have handed it, all would have been done. It would have been a sad but quieter scene. So know what the documents do.
And posts aren't available in all 50 states.
Okay, thank you, Skip. But people ask, can they use it in another state? It gets a little wonky because it's a doctor's order. It's signed by a California doctor, which they may not accept in another state.
It's a legal document too.
Pardon me?
It's a legal document.
Oh, it's a legal document.
Yeah.
That's why we include them with our estate planning documents. We do include them. So having preparations, if you have a senior client and you sold them a home, I think one of the best housewarming gifts you could give them would be, if they're here, like here in Santa Clara County, we have what's called the LIFE file, LIFE, stands for, I'd have to go look at it down there. It's done through the Santa Clara emergent EMS people because they loved it. It was originally started many years ago through Stanford, but anybody can do it. You don't have to do anything special. It's an envelope. It has information in there, your current medications, emergency contact, what hospital you want to go to, what's your doctor's contact information. You'll have the POLST in there. A copy of the POLST is just as effective as the wet ink version of it. It is these documents, something pretty, stick it on the refrigerator, for EMS, whatever it is. That would be so beneficial for all seniors to have on their refrigerator, because that's planning ahead while you still can plan, because that's very, very important.
And that's the successor to the old vial of life, if you remember that, the oversized pill bottle that had all that info and you put it in the fridge. Now they have a pouch for it and you can place it on the refrigerator. There it is.
Yeah.
So this is what it looks like. Life-saving information for emergencies. So this is put out through the Santa Clara EMT's office. Just sometimes you can get them. They say you can get them at the fire stations. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
you
they
will
do.
see that has a magnet, has a strip on the back. It goes magnets onto the refrigerator. you can put whatever you want in here. They have this, simple form. Again, medical history, medications. This is very important if a person has dementia and they're not talking right. Well, be nice to, EMTs to know that. It would be nice for EMTs to know if your client spoke a different language, so that when they're being addressed in English, they may have no comprehension, and therefore they're thinking, well, there must be stroking. Like, no, they just don't even know the language. Or if they have, if they had a stroke before and there's, they have weakness on the left side anyways, prior to this, it's just, EMTs love this. Having one of those for your clients would be great. Good thing for them to have. It's a good help.
That would be like for first-time home buyers or even repeat buyers. Like, I would just automatically hand it out.
Mhm.
We could
Yeah.
co-brand it.
Positioning, yeah.
Yeah, we can co-brand it too.
Well, that's exactly, you could. I mean, I will often just put my business card, affix it in here. But you can make, I mean, you could, there's nothing special about this envelope, but you can do something. It's a marketing, but it's so important. But yeah, you can
Yeah.
do whatever you want. The
Yeah.
important part is having this information available. I had a client once, who the adult daughter called me and she says, I don't understand why I'm calling you, but my mom said, call my attorney's office. And this adult child, she's now a woman. She says, so, my mom wanted me to call. I said, well, tell me about your mom. Well, mom lives with me and she's doing great. I said, okay, how long she lived there? Last, 5 years. Mom's slowing down a little bit. She's got, she uses a walker now, but she's quite healthy and da-da-da. I said, okay. And she continues talking. And she talks about, well, I go on a lot of business trips. I work full time, plus I go on business trips. But, when I go to work, we leave the front door unlocked so that if mom calls 911, they would be able to have easy entrance. I'm like, well, that's not a good answer, but okay. And she says, when I go on business trips, I let the next door neighbor know so that, if mom has any issues, they can talk to her and know what's going on. And I said, well, it sounds to me that maybe your mom's not feeling safe in the current situation. And so we had lots of discussions of what she can do to help her mom feel safer. One of which, of course, was to have this information for EMTs should they come. There was a lot more to it, but it was just, she ended up calling me about every 6 months, had essentially an hour-long consultation each time, because, mom was going through different phases and levels of independence and everything else. So it was a good thing.
By the way, the answer to the leaving the front door unlocked, there is I forget what they call it now, but it's like a real estate lockbox.
Right.
It's affixed to the outside of the house somewhere, and there's a bright reflective red tag on it to identify it. And you put the house key inside, but the fire department and EMT has the key to be able to access that. So like me, for instance, since I live alone and I keep the place locked up, I needed something like this for somebody to be able to get into the house if they needed to. And it's a freebie with, well, I'm not sure if it is a freebie, but it's if you contact the fire department or their EMTs, they can give you the details on it.
Yes, there are
What's
ways
it called?
he
I
doesn't
can't
know.
remember offhand. I have to go out and look at it, but
We'll find out. I'll publish it. Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, for seniors living at home alone, there's a lot of different options without jeopardizing privacy, personal safety, different things like that, which is what I discussed with the daughter to help her mom feel safe in the home. The other things I do that people will call me about is when they're thinking, when they're thinking of downsizing, is that they have no idea what the different senior communities or different types of living are out there. There's just the large, like the villages with the large 55 and older community. There's apartment buildings that are that way. There are then the independent and assisted living communities that are popping up everywhere around here. What do those look like and what are they like? What happens when you need the assisted care? And then there's the CCRCs, continuing care retirement centers, that have all levels of care. So they have the independent, the assisted, which also includes the memory care. And then there's also the skilled nursing level of care. And that's the high level, that's the highest level of care. That's a person who needs assistance with the dressing, the showering, the toileting. And this is the one where here in California, and every state is different, so I'm only talking to California, regarding California, is that Medi-Cal, being the Medicaid version, is what will help pay for a skilled nursing level of care. And what people are not aware of is that as of January of this year, for those over 65, Medi-Cal has removed the asset test. So it used to be that quite a few years ago, maybe I lose track of time, 3 or 4 years ago, a person on Medi-Cal who's over 65 could have no more than $2,000 in their bank account. They certainly were not going to have a vacation home. They certainly weren't going to have a brokerage account. They certainly, there's all these different aspects. But they could have a home of any size. They could have a car, and they could have retirement accounts. That's pretty much all they could have. Now, as of January, those over 65 can have whatever they want to have, whatever they have, the second home, the vacation home, rental property. Medi-Cal is only going to be now looking at income. So that's a big name, game changer for those who are, needing to transition maybe to a higher level of care. It's the person who keeps bouncing back and forth from the ER to the home, back and forth. And this is where the adult child may call a realtor and say, hey, this isn't working. I don't know what the next step is, but we got to get mom out of here. She keeps going back and forth to the hospital. What are the other options? You may not know the other options. I do know the other options. How are we going to pay for it? Well, there's, the long-term care. That we can also look at the VA. We can look at then selling the home to help subsidize it. There's lots of different options. What makes sense for one person does not make sense for another. So it's very individualized. Sometimes, I've told adult children, it's like, you know what? It is in your best financial, for your own financial worth, to hold on to this house, to pay whatever you need to keep this house going while mom is wherever she is. Because, mom's 98 years old. She's already had 2 strokes. You only need to sustain this so much longer, and you're going to save in the capital gains as beneficiaries, because once mom passes, then you erase all the capital gains in that, with that act. So, this is what you're, again, it's a numbers game. It's purely numbers. And yet some things I tell people, it's just like, and some things are just priceless. You can't put a price on just peace of mind. I'm one and done. My mom, when she sold her house down in LA years ago, it was a big deal for her to just be one and done. The financial consequence was not on her radar. She could care less. She just wanted to be done with it. And so we did. That's what we did. But knowing what the options are out there, and sometimes changes in where someone lives is changed because of a diagnosis, a new diagnosis of, it depends on what the diagnosis is. So like dementia, it's just going to get worse and worse. Parkinson's going to get worse and worse. Where you're still going to be able to, you're still going to be living for quite a while, and yet your ability to live at home independently is not going to happen. These people need to know what's coming down the pike. This is sometimes called life care planning. This could be done with people with a diagnosis of some sort, or for those who are just aging and want to know, don't want to be a burden to their children. We hear that often. I don't want to be a burden to my children. How do we make that possible? So, I love life care planning because it's planning ahead. I'm normally called for the crisis planning. Someone's already in the hospital. They're already in a skilled nursing facility. They've already have 24-hour care at home, did not know what they were walking into financially. And now they're like, mom needs to go back to skilled nursing. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Why did you discharge her? Because they said they had no long-term care beds. Well, I'm sorry you listened to that lie, because that's what people are literally lied to. I'm astonished. I don't know how these people who are supposed to be helping people from skilled nursing facilities do it, how they sleep at night. But they will flat out lie to the family, and you got to know the real news behind it. Anyways, that's a whole nother story. That's the advocacy part. So essentially what comprises what I do, and I'm just going to wrap up here. Essentially, I look at a comprehensive approach. I'm looking at the psychological, the social, the medical side of what's going on. Health, what is your health like? What can improve upon it? And then I assess the situation. What's really going on? And again, these are phone calls. I'm not needing to go into the house. I'm talking to the individual or the family member. I'm getting the big picture. What are the concerns? What are your worries? And then assist with a plan. The plan could be a 3-hour plan. I've had 3-hour plans. Someone's in the hospital. The hospital says, you got to be discharged. There's no medical reason for you to be here. Otherwise, it's going to cost you $8,000 a day. And they're talking to the child, the adult child, the 60-year-old. And the 60-year-old's panicking, going, I can't afford that. I signed mom in. How am I going to afford this? Well, to know the truth about it is helpful. So 3-hour plan, sometimes it's a 3-year plan. It just depends on the situation. And advise, how do you pay for things? What are your options? What are all the options? What makes sense for you? Being an advocate for them. And then of course, always foundationally is the need for everyone to have an estate plan. The estate plan may involve a trust if they own property, or over $188,000 worth of in the bank account, or at least an estate plan is to have a financial power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney, and then the will and last testament. That's just a simple plan for those who don't own real estate. So I really want to enforce that, because that's foundational to help people. When I get the call from the adult child, mom has dementia, I need to do da-da-da-da, I need to get a power of attorney for her. I'm like, that ship has sailed. We're now talking conservatorship. It's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars to hire an attorney, go to court. Hopefully you'll be appointed, but maybe not. Maybe a fiduciary will. Who knows? You want to do this planning when you can, not when you necessarily need it. So that's all I have for you. I know I talked a lot. I do. I'm a yacker, but I do hope you each took away something, at least one little aha, and I'm open for questions.
Thank you. That was awesome, DEDRA.
Thanks, Rick.
Yeah,
I have
with
a
it.
question.
go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna miss something. So the living trust, okay, I guess you can hear it.
Can you repeat the question, please?
All right.
Here
The
comes the
question,
hour.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so the living trust and the financial power attorney. So if you have living trust already, and then does not guarantee that you have, and the power attorney, I guess I don't quite understand the
Mhm.
difference.
Okay, so the living trust is standardly, we'll just to put a number, let's just say a 30-page document, and a financial power of attorney can be as few as 3 pages, 2 pages, I think I've seen out there. The trust dictates who has authority, the trustee. The financial power of attorney has an agent, who has authority over anything not in the trust. So the power of attorney is for things like the utility bills, the cell phone, the car. Cars are usually not in a trust. Life insurance policies are not in a trust.
Anything with the beneficiary is not.
Right. 401ks, IRAs, any bank account that's not in a trust, that's where you use the power of attorney for. The trust dictates who has control there. The reason we want things in the trust is because it is, as Skip mentioned, it is the beneficiary. It has the beneficiary designation for anything funded in that, versus a bank account will may not have a beneficiary pay on death, transfer on death designation. IRAs, 401ks usually always have beneficiaries, but you still want to make sure those are current, because what if someone got divorced or died or whatever, and you want to change it, or it just can become a mess. So which is why we always say for IRAs, 401ks, have a designation of a person, and then put your trust as the second option, just in case anything happens there. You have your trust as the backup.
Got it. I think so. Thank you.
So with estate planning nowadays, when people come in to have conversations with estate planning attorneys, are they starting to talk about you need to create these kinds of situations, these kinds of documents, and actually plan in advance an aging plan to go along with your estate plan?
That one's debatable, because some part of it has to do with the age of the client, and their circumstance. So a 40-year-old is not going to be figuring out that is the 40-year-old gets the comprehensive estate plan, so that they have all the options open. Should they lack capacity? It kind of reminds me that we had this one person, the sister called. Sister's over here at Good Samaritan Hospital, just down the street, so I'm pointing to it. Her brother had a massive stroke. Her brother was not married. He had no children. He owned a house, and he did absolutely no estate planning. His stroke was so bad that he was intubated, he was paralyzed, and all he could do was blink. And so he had comprehension. And she says, I just want to do something so that we don't go through probate when he dies. They're like, it was that serious of a stroke. And so we're trying to think, what could we do here at the office? We're like, we rally. We rally for certain things, we're like, okay, if we did a power of attorney today, because our power of attorneys are very comprehensive, it allows the power of attorney agent to actually create a trust for that person. We could get it all done based off of a power of attorney document that we create. So we thought, if we could have him sign a power of attorney document and list his sister, and then boom, work on the trust, maybe we can get it done within a week's time, days, weeks, whatever. But he has to be able to sign the document, the power of attorney document. And you're all notaries, I'm assuming. What does it take here in California for a person to have a document notarized? And we're looking up everything. Can he hold it in a pen in his mouth? Can we tape the pen to his hand? What is allowed? And as it ended up, he could not sign the power of attorney document. He could not hold anything in his mouth because he's being intubated. There's no possibility for them to do that. Even if they taped it, which they're not allowed to, he's supposed to grasp it himself. He could do whatever scribble. That's his signature, but he could not grasp, and he could not even move. He could not even do an X. He could do nothing. It would have
that's
been
an
his
interesting
sister going
point.
like this. Like, can't do it.
Would he be able to actually create the trust being in this condition?
No, he was going to sign the power of attorney document. And our power of attorney documents does allow an agent to create a trust for that person. That's how
Okay.
that would have been done. As it ends up, he could not create the power of attorney document. Therefore, there was no trust. He passed away about a week later. I don't know if she ever came here for probate or anything, but anyways, we tried. So you want to get these things ahead of time. You just never know.
So
Would,
again, oh, go ahead.
would it be able to, could he even make a will? Is, I was thinking, if he did a pour over will and be able to get everything into the trust that way. But I don't know, can he
Well,
execute a will being in that condition?
Well, no, I mean, he couldn't sign it. He couldn't. He
So
couldn't do
everything's
anything.
down to signing then.
It was all down to the signing. Yes, he could
Okay.
not sign.
Wow, that is a predicament.
Yeah.
So again, it reinforces, sometimes I have conversations with people and everything that we do, where we do talk about senior homeowners and families of senior homeowners, it's not always about being a senior. It's about at any time, at any stage of life. And especially for first-time home buyers, young adults that are making this kind of investment, we're starting to issue some of this information to them, and they do kind of look at you like, what do I want to talk about that for? And I'm like, well, for this reason, that reason, and the other reason. And then we also have another story that last year, one of our colleagues had a client whose family was in their 50s, and the gentleman had a snowmobile accident and ended up in the hospital and incapacitated and unprepared, and they were in their 50s. So it
Never
doesn't
too early.
really matter about age, really.
Well, the reality is even for, if any of you have children, once they hit 18, they should have at least a healthcare power of attorney document, because they're the ones going off to college. You get the call from the hospital, you call, they can't talk to you about anything. You have no authority. You can't answer for your kid. There's also the HIPAA release, which is another one of the documents that we include in our estate plan,
Oh, boy.
so that the healthcare power of attorney allows your agent to talk to the doctor, but now we need the doctor to actually be talking back to you. The full conversation is very important. So even, I mean, by the time when you're hit 18, you need a simple plan. People think, well, no. Well, my brother, he was like, what do I need a trust for? I said, because you own property, you've got children, you've got grandchildren. He's like, yeah, well, I'm thinking about it now. I said, what would have happened if something happened to you and your wife, when the kids were younger? Well, I suppose, one of the parents would have I'm like, meaning the grandparents, like, it's a total mess. I got a better one even. I have a really good friend whose parents were clients of our law firm here, and they had since passed, and he said, wow, your office did such a great job. It was so smooth, it was so easy, and da-da-da-da-da. And I said, well, do you guys have an estate plan? He goes, well, no, we haven't gotten to it yet. And they have 3 children, they have rental property. I'm like, I don't know if you guys in the real estate world have some jokes about, some of your clients as generalities, but we're like, if you don't have a trust, you must really hate your kids. That's the way we say it, because you are putting them in a mess of a trouble.
Well,
If you die without one, or if you get injured without one, or incapacitated without one. We see it all the time here, and it is just heartbreaking and frustrating for the adult children. Like, well, I tried to get them to da-da-da, and I know they probably did. Mom, Dad, you need to do this.
well, thank goodness as realtors, we're all familiar with forgeries, so we are experts on being able to get things done. So, no, I didn't say that, did I?
Well, so yeah, because here's the thing, as senior real estate specialists, and when we are talking to our senior homeowners and families of senior homeowners and the adult children, and we're bringing up all these issues and these scenarios and they are talking to us. They are talking to us too in crisis mode. And we have answers for them now, more so than we have had in the past, especially as SRES. And doing things like this and learning from you, DEDRA, just makes us better at our job. So we'd like to know, like, how do people contact you? Do they do you get referrals from all kinds of different sources? And then how do you bill the families for specific actions or tasks or?
So the way our office operates, first of all, there's the geriatric care part, which is me, and then there's the legal part, which is the attorneys and everybody else. When it comes to the legal part, that's the trusts, the wills, the power of attorneys, all that. The attorneys here work on a flat fee basis. They have no hourly billing. They have no consultation billing. For example, the guy that was in this morning, he needs his trust reviewed. I said, you know, this is what you do. Go on to our website. Watch our webinar. You'll be assigned, you'll look at the attorney's calendar, plug in, talk to the attorney, no charge. We're very transparent with our fees. So essentially, if we do a job, this is the fee. That's it for the legal. For me, I'm a little different. I do have a consultation fee of $200 an hour. However, having said that, I also just talk a lot and if I'm not doing any work for you, I'm not going to charge you. It just doesn't make sense to me. But if I'm giving you a lot of information and kind of plotting the course, and that's took an hour, that's where the consultation mode comes in. But I don't do a lot of fee consultations. I also do Medi-Cal applications. I can do them for anywhere in the state. And this is when people that catastrophic thing happens. High level care, what are we going to do? We're being kicked out of the skilled nursing, the rehab place. They say we can't stay. Just give me a call. So I have people, so-and-so said I should call you. It's going to be from an outside source, and it's whoever they're talking to. I also do home safety assessments. Being an occupational therapist, I have a huge wish and desire for everyone to have their home safe if they're not going to move. The home that was great as a 30-year-old, 30 years later, how much do we have the deferred maintenance and the wiggly posts and the cracked tile on the floor and the step downs with no handrails and the lighting that, is just not bright. And, now you got automatic, you go into that dark room, the light turns on automatically. You don't need to flip a switch, and just all these different things you can do to a house to make it safer. So I do those for a flat fee too.
They're asking for your contact information in the chat box, if you could.
Got it. Let's see. Okay, all right. I'm gonna put my phone number and my email.
This is Joanna. I want to add one thing. DEDRA has been so good. She helped my client. I wish I know her, gosh, 1 or 2 months ago. Until Julie mentioned that, she really helped my client a great deal. Thank you very much.
Well, let me tell you how good she is. I've known her for years, and not only has she been a fellow consultation person, but she is actually the co-executor of my estate. So I think that much of her that she's going to be,
Keep living, Skip. Keep living. I don't want to deal.
Don't put a contract out on me now just because of that.
Well, you didn't say I was a beneficiary, so you need to keep on living, Skip.
There you go.
Question.
For at least an hour.
Yeah, Cardwell.
Yes, yeah, I see the raised hand does not get recognized. Huh?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that
Your
I can barely
TV,
see it.
your cute TV frame is obstructing the view.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, DEDRA, I came in late, very late on your presentation. So my question, why am I getting an echo?
I don't know.
My question for you is, are you considered a specialist in elder law? Is that the
You better
No,
play back the tape whenever it gets done. It'll explain it all in there.
Yeah, I'm not an attorney.
okay, you're not an attorney.
Right.
Okay. Geriatric care.
People think I am at times, but nope, I am not. Thank goodness.
Now I'm not in California. I'm in New Jersey. What's the best way for me to find someone like you?
So our company is under a national organization called APA, and I'll stick this in here too, AAEPA.com, which is American Academy of Estate Planning Attorneys. These attorneys are all come together and share information, and elder law, and a lot of them have people like me in their office. Not all of them, but when they don't, then the attorney should be acting as I would. The attorneys here are lucky because they don't have to deal with a lot of this stuff that I do, which saves them a lot of time and money. So they can just do their thing, their attorney thing. I deal with all the minutia of elder growing old.
Judy, you're on mute.
Still on mute.
There, I fixed it. Yeah, and that's another thing as well for us as senior real estate specialists to be able to reach out to you, because you do what you do, and then we can do what we do best. And you know, there is a little bit of crossover, but we don't know we don't know everything, and we're not supposed to. Even as seniors, certified senior advisors and SRES, there's still a lot of things that we would be able to, or would want to be able to call you about for our clients.
We don't know what we don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, exactly. I mean, just selling a house is not just a one-person deal. The realtor, there's a tax consultant. You got to deal with the county, there's different people the seller has to interact with to get the full picture of what's going on.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. We'll have all of your contact information in the bulletin next week as well. And it's there as well right now in the bulletin, so that's a good reason.
Only in the QR code.
It's a QR code. Yeah.
Only.
Mhm.
Okay, for those of us who don't do QR codes, we'll be creating a solution for that. So, anybody else have any questions?
Just want to emphasize that all the information that we've gone over today, I include in the SRES course. So it's inflated because of the details that we might need on this kind of stuff. And those of you that have already taken the SRES course with me are probably familiar with a lot of this stuff. And my next class is January 22nd and 23rd.
It's on the books. Yay.
I
Yeah.
appreciate thank you very much for having me here. Always happy to share. Our office is huge on people learning. We offer lots of different classes for, funding a trust, how power of attorney, and trustee school, of course, living trusts, and we have lots of different things, a lot of YouTube out there with different topics.
Such a great resource.
Yeah,
Such a
thank
great
you.
resource. Yeah, definitely. Well, I thank you so much for your time and look forward to collaborating on more things in the future.
Yeah,
So-
come out and check our owl out.
Yeah, and I'm gonna get that too. Yeah. See, I learned something today. Yay. It also reinforces exactly how unprepared I am for things. Or all of us, right? Right, Rick?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, you guys. Have a great week.
Thank you.
And happy Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, no meeting next week.
Right.
Scroll down the chat.
And stop the
Oh, yeah.
recording.
Oh, wait,
And
okay.
stop the recording.
Scroll down.
Okay. Scroll down.
And stop the recording.
Okay, I'll.
And stop